Seems like the Resident Evil leaker, can't remember what his name is, Dusk, is now stating that Capcom is working on Resident Evil Code Veronica, a remake for Code Veronica, which should have old gen fans such as myself very excited, which I am. The problem though is the validity of these leaks. However, I know with this Dusk Golem, whatever his name is, I follow him on Twitter, but his name is like the Aesthetic Gamer or something like that. That's just the at name. I don't know his legitimate like handle, but from what I know, he's verified things in the past. One of the things he's verified was Resident Evil 8 having werewolves and vampires, so he was right about that. And so again, I think people are questioning the validity of his claims because he sort of retracted his statements. He went from saying we're working on a Resident Evil remake of the remake, and he said a few things about 9, and so now he's turning around and redacting that. He also said before that they were working on a Resident Evil 5 remake, and this has been redacted as well. And so people are alleging that this is his game plan. Is he lines up all of his ducks in a row and throws all these rumors, speculations, and ideas out there, and then he'll redact some and then reinforce the others. That way, when something does happen, he can point his finger and say, see, I told you. So I mean, I can see that. So like in the event that like he's wrong about the Code Veronica remake, and it turns out they're working on Resident Evil remake of the original Resident Evil, then he can take his past statement, the one that he redacted, he can open it back up and be like, well, yeah, they were technically working on a remake of the Resident Evil original, the HD version. You know, he can totally do that, and I could see that as being a method to winning the sort of battle with leaking rumors and stuff like that. However, I don't know what his game plan was for, if this is how he operates, if he's not like a legitimate leaker. I don't know how he would have guessed the whole vampires and werewolves thing. My idea is, yes, he does have some sort of hold on obtaining information. I do believe that. It just happens to be the people who's giving him this information, the people who are feeding him this information, are they giving him the correct information towards these things? That's really what should be questioned, and not so much is he doing this just to be right about things. Okay, so my thought is a little bit in between. So I do kind of think that he is employing this sort of tactic to be right about these things, but I guess like what I really hope for is that this last statement he made about them ditching the idea of this Resident Evil remake of the remake, if that's saying he's saying that's total BS now. Good. I hope that's true. Even though I was, you know, somewhat mildly excited for it, I just don't understand why they would do that or how it would work. As I stated before, like, you know, it's not like a Resident Evil 4 styled game. There's a limited number of zombies. It's more based on horror. It's built upon camera angles and things like that. So I don't see this like whole system working in a Resident Evil remake unless you made it like a first person game. Then it might work, but you have to retain that sense of horror. So that could be total bullshit, and I kind of hope it is. I mean, it would be an interesting thought experiment to say the least, but at the end of the day, it's just like, I want what most old gen, don't want to call myself old, but what most of us older generation fans want, and what we want is the Code Veronica remake, for the love of God. So he's saying that is in the works. He's saying that the production, the development of Resident Evil 5 is complete bullshit. The remake of it, which I hope is true. One day I will play through the entirety of Resident Evil 5, but where it stands, it's in the same category as 6 with me. This is a shitty title. I don't know why people like it. It's got the most ridiculous setup to it. It's 2 players. I've stated this before. I don't think Resident Evil should ever be a 2-player game. It doesn't seem to hold on to any sense of horror. It's strictly an action game with, you know, monsters. But you know what else is an action game with monsters? Devil May Cry. Is that a horror game? No. And so Resident Evil is supposed to be a horror series. This is where it's not a horror series, and it pisses me off. Resident Evil 4 at least tried to hold on to some sense of horror. Not completely, not entirely, but Resident Evil 5 is where they abandoned that 100% and started going to the more action-oriented route and the what can we do with tech route. So like what I mean by that whole what can we do with tech route is when they turned around and made the game 2-player because they wanted to see what they could accomplish with it. And that's my biggest concern with Resident Evil 9 is them being like looking at tech such as VR and making, you know, a game based on what the technology of the time has provided us, as opposed to making a game that's like with what the fans want, what at the time of the fans, you know, the time of the fans when it comes to horror games and video games in general, with the time we are living in, fans want. And this is what AAA developers need to do, is they need to look at what the fucking fans want instead of what the technology can provide them. The technology, they're always trying to jerk off the people who's creating technology. Like, you know, it's like the same with like every time like post Windows like XP, every time they made an update to Windows, it's just they're trying to increase the convenience of Windows in the way of like you would see like how they operate with like phones and stuff, just giving you all these jerk me off sort of features that really don't help the program at all. Like that's how Windows has been since XP. It hasn't tried to actually make it more convenient. It's tried to make it more up to time with technology and doing all these weird things that no one cares about. And what people have always wanted when it comes to Windows is just more convenient. They want it to be similar to XP or 95. And that's literally it. And that's the thing, same with games, is they want games to have good storylines, graphics that are passable, to say the least, and they kind of just want their more bang for their buck. They at the same time, like, you know, for a while there, people wanted games that had, you know, a long duration of playtime. So as opposed to 70 hours or 7 hours, they wanted 20 hours. But now it's getting to the point to where developers did seem to listen to that, and they stocked a bunch of more hours into the game. But now people are being overwhelmed with all these hours that are in a game. So it's just like, hey, can you just return to when games were good? Like, that's it. Just go back to when games were good and stop trying all these new things. Just make a game good. It's not hard. But I mean, once you have a team that has consistently grown over the years, it becomes chaotic. And I think that's what's happening to these dev teams, is they're just getting too big, they're getting too much money, and when they have all this money to throw around, like, they try all these new things that they shouldn't be trying. It's just like, no, you need to, what they need to do is they need to portion out their team into smaller groups and give them specific tasks, you know, and with the objective of making the greatest game of all time. Like, seriously, like they need to think about these things more from a tactical stance, as opposed to, oh, we got all this money, let's throw all this money at that and do this and do that. And that's like my concern with 9, is they've been working on this for 7 years, and I've already posted it on Twitter. It's like, this is the end all to be all with Resident Evil. Like, this is called Apocalypse for a reason. The rumor is, like, they're all like in their 50s and nearing their 60s and stuff. This is like the final game. It has, and I'm hoping that's what it is. It's like the final game, the final fucking nail in the coffin. So for that, it has to just be the best of both worlds. It has to be the most horrific Resident Evil experience, and also like the most, you know, throughout the years they did blend the game with this sense of action. They have to blend it with that action, but in a way that complements the horror. Now, are they going to be able to do that? I don't know. I don't know. They could always try to take it in the direction of VR. Everyone's favorites. Oh boy, VR, virtual reality. The one thing that like not many gamers are clued in on at the point. They're not testing it out as much as they should be. It's super expensive, super experimental. And that's the thing, man. It's super experimental. Why would you make a game with something that has that huge of a fan base with something that's entirely experimental? But I'm just speculating here. Like you gotta hope for you gotta pray for the best and expect the worst. And the worst would be, hey, Resident Evil 9 is in VR, you know, or Resident Evil 9 is, you know, making use of this new tech or that new tech, you know, we've did this, we did that, and that's like, okay. Resident Evil's dead. It is dead. It is dead. It is dead. I'm not saying that it is, but if that were to happen, Resident Evil would be dead. Would be fucking dead. And so would survival horror. Survival horror would be dead as well. Resident Evil, whether you want to sit there and be like, well, Alone in the Dark was the first survival horror game. No, Resident Evil was the one that jump-started all of it and put it into its full momentum. It wasn't Alone in the Dark. Alone in the Dark was like the prototype, you know. It was like the prototype for it. Like, you know, like, I don't want to make this illusion, but like how the Tyrant, the original Tyrant, or more or less the Tyrant from Resident Evil 0, that fucking one that was like all mutating and gross and stuff, that was like Alone in the Dark. And then the Tyrant from Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, is like the real prototype, you know. The one before was just the experiments, and that's Alone in the Dark. So Resident Evil is the real starter of survival horror. This must be the switchboard room. Seems like everything is still working. All right, good. Yeah, so our thoughts and prayers are out there. Totally, 100%. So I gotta make this equal like 23 or some shit. God damn it. Wait a minute. Go back. Put that one down. No, you piece of. But yeah, we don't. So the other thing is light on the panel. The other thing is they're saying that Capcom is also working on a remake of Resident Evil 0. So that is where I'm becoming to get a little bit skeptical of these leaks coming from this dude. There's a mechanical sounding noise. The lift must be working. Yeah, I'm becoming skeptical of these leaks big time, because that sounds very similar to the thing he said about Resident Evil Remake being remade. Like, I'm not seeing the point of it. Like, why would they remake Resident Evil 0? Like, that's not a game that people are really attached to. Like, the only reason I could see them trying to remake it would be because, like, 1956. Okay. The only reason I could see them trying to remake it is to make it more well received. But, like, you might as well remake Resident Evil 6 for that same exact purpose, is to make it more well received. And trust me, Resident Evil 5 was well received. Despite me not liking it, it was a well-received game. 6, however, was not. So I don't understand why they'd be remaking Resident Evil 0, but if they were, that's why I think this is bullshit. I think that's bullshit. Just don't see it happening. And I'm hoping he's not bullshitting about the Code Veronica remake. I think most people out there, except the new gen fans, are, you know, probably not too happy about it. They want to see Resident Evil 5 remade. They don't even know what Code Veronica is. They want to see... So yes, I want to see Code Veronica remade, but hearing this about Resident Evil 0... God, dude, like, I don't know if I can trust that. That sounds like total BS. That sounds like total jerk me off fucking shit. That he's just throwing that in there for filler. That's what I'm thinking. If this claim isn't legitimate, he's throwing that shit in there for filler. Not to criticize the dude or anything, but like, I don't know. He was, however, right about Resident Evil 8. He was right about the werewolves. He was right about the vampires. So like, I do think that he has something of a source of information, but that source of information, like, it might not be entirely credible. It has its moments, whoever it is, whatever it is, it has its moments of credibility. So these statements about what Capcom is doing, it's like, I don't know if you can even say this is a 50-50. I really don't know. He also said that Resident Evil 9 is being pushed back until 2026. I kind of don't mind. I think it's too soon for Resident Evil 9. I really do. I'm sorry, but I do. And in the meantime, if they have like a remake of Code Veronica, I will greatly fucking embrace that. If you want to wait until 2026, as long as you give us something in the meantime, yeah, fine. Like, that game needs as much time as it takes to turn it into what I'm hoping it will be. Because like I said, it's not only like the end all to be all, it's also like the game that's going to go in there and keep the ship afloat for survival horror, or it's going to sink it. That's how I honestly feel about Resident Evil 9. I don't know if anybody else sees it from this point of view, but that's how I certainly see it. It's because survival horror, it's not, in my honest opinion, it's not doing too good. It's just walking sim after walking sim. And they're just, a lot of these survival horror games are very experimental, and people, I'm sorry, you need to move away from the experimental shit. You need to go back to the formula that it was sort of based on, and it's just like, you just make a good game. You know, that's really it. And that's what developers need to do in general, is just make a good fucking game. They keep experimenting too much with new tech and new capabilities and the things that they can do. And trust me, I like having new tech in a game. I do. Everyone does. But they're focusing way too much on what they can do with games as opposed to making them good at this point. And I think most people can see that. Begs the question, is Resident Evil 9 going to be open world? I don't know. If it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. Damn it! Come on! These fucking controls, dude. They need to fucking fix them. Seriously, if they make another Fatal Frame game since these fucking controls, I swear to God, dude. Enough. Enough of these fucking controls, dude. Like, I've never seen a game my entire life use the X or square button as the fucking menu button. I've never fucking seen that. And you know, I swear to God, in Fatal Frame 2, the X button was the run button. It was the button you held down to run. Now, why would they go around and do this? Like, what the fuck? Why would they turn the run button now into the fucking menu button? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Alright, oh, there's that wheelchair again. The corridor is blocked by a red wheelchair. You seriously can't push this thing out of the way? You are that frail of a fatal frame, babe? These Fatal Frame babes. I think I've said like a couple times here, like whether a Fatal Frame babe is like worth dating or not. I don't know, man. If you want to be subjected to some sort of freaky fucking curse that's gonna leave you a spirit for all eternity, I don't think a Fatal Frame babe is worth it. Like, cause that's likely what's gonna happen if you date a Fatal Frame babe. Like, you date her, and then one day she's gonna vanish. She's gonna vanish, and she's gonna go to like some village or some old school that she used to go to, and you're gonna be looking for her, and you're gonna go searching for her, and then you're gonna get trapped in some fucking desolate, scary fucking place where there's ghosts and ghouls and fucking kubasabis, and they're gonna fucking kill you and turn you into one of them. So you have to ask yourself, is it really worth dating a Fatal Frame babe? I mean, for the 2 fucking minutes that you have to enjoy with her, sure. Sure.